Jealous wife has lied to our daughter, cheated on me with my ex-boyfriend, stalked me when I found someone else, and now she wants to end our marriage. She has also sought an open marriage before. I am 39 years old, and my wife is 37 years old. 45 years have passed since my wife and I tied the knot. We have 2 children, a girl who is 14 years old and a boy who is 12 years old with us. Approximately 1.5 years ago, my wife approached me with the request to have an open marriage. She stated that she was bored with just the 2 of us and desired to have new experiences. This was something that I strongly disagreed with because I am a firm believer that marriage is a union between 2 individuals. My wife had only been with me up to the time when we got married, and I had already had 5 sexual partners. She made it abundantly obvious that she was prepared to file for divorce if we did not take action to open things up. It was something that neither of us want, so I consented to it under certain circumstances. There was no one who returned to the farmhouse. We don't discuss partners because the children aren't aware, the family isn't aware, all partners are tested in before, there is no one that we both know, and so on. I had a strong sense that my wife was thinking about someone, and this notion was verified when she went out and didn't come back until 4 in the morning, 24 hours after we had planned to do something. I found it challenging to come to terms with it. Despite the fact that I was not at all content with it, I was striving to keep my marriage intact. I first met Amber in May of last year. Collectively, our girls are members of the marching band. Amber is no longer interested in getting married and has been divorced for a long time. Exactly like every other person in the world. She does have requirements. In other words, I started having sexual relations with Amber 5 months after we broke the marriage off. It seemed like cheating at first, but to tell you the truth, it's good to have something that doesn't have any conditions attached to it, where neither of us wants it to move ahead. After some time had passed, I grew more at ease with the concept that my wife and I would be able to fulfill our requirements both within and outside of the context of our marriage itself. Indeed, it made our sexual lives a great deal more passionate, and it brought us a great deal of happiness. During the month of April, my wife and her side boyfriend, whom I had never met, decided to quit seeing one another due to the coronavirus. According to what I have gathered, his wife is unaware of the fact that he is in an open marriage, and it was extremely difficult for him to escape. However, my wife had the opportunity to meet Amber for the first time during the Zoom concert that we helped organize for the band kids in May. The show was a huge success. I suppose that Amber has been honest with a few of the mothers, because it was brought to my wife's attention that Amber was my partner outside of the relationship. I was instructed by my wife that I have to cease my relationship with Amber, because we are both familiar with her. I declined, emphasizing the fact that neither of us had any prior knowledge of her, and that the meeting did not break the norms that we had established. It has been brought to my attention on multiple occasions over the course of the past month that she is uneasy with the fact that I am continuing to have sexual relations with Amber, and that I must terminate the arrangement. It is important to take note that she was doing well for a year while she was with her person. During the course of this past weekend, she approached me and expressed her desire to reconcile our marriage once more. As long as we both agreed that it would continue to be closed going forward, I assured her that I was willing to consider that possibility. She acknowledged that this is what she desires as well, that she does not require any additional partners, and that she is content with having only me as her partner. I informed her that we could reach a consensus to end the marriage if we agreed to 2 criteria. I have presented the first one above. Second, I wanted her to sign a document that would exclude her from having to pay spousal support in the event that we divorced. She completely lost her cool. That was something that she flatly refused to even consider. Since we are married, my wife has abstained from working since she is a psalm. In the event that she signed the document, she stated that I may continue to visit Amber and leave her with nothing. I told her that I would be willing to add a list of cases that we had mutually agreed upon, including instances in which I had committed infidelity, in which the agreement would be null and void. Apparently there is no room for debate on the matter. That she will not be cheated on and left with nothing when I decide to leave her for Amber, and that she will not continue to be disappointed in me. I made it clear that she was the one who came up with the idea for this whole thing, and that I had only agreed to it in order to keep our marriage intact. She believes that if we do not consummate the marriage, then it is as if it has already come to an end. I made it clear to her that I will not put up with her being threatened with divorce each and every time she does not conform to my expectations. I am being theatrical, she adds, and I need to concentrate on the 2 of us. If there are no conditions attached, should I agree? However, despite the fact that I am aware that I am standing my ground, I feel as though I am blowing up my marriage over a dead body. At the same time, I do not believe that it is about Amber at all. I am aware that there is no future with Amber because we have both acknowledged that it is simply physical relationships. I phoned Amber this morning, reminded her that we were supposed to keep things confidential, and asked her who she discussed the facts of our liaison with. This is the first update, and it is based on what some of you have mentioned here. I didn't get the impression that she was lying when she denied that she had told anyone about it. I was able to investigate the history of my wife's Google timeline and found out that she had followed me to Amber's residence in the month of April. After following me, she purposefully presented herself to Amber in order to provoke a conflict between the two of them. At this point, I was under the impression that she was interested in becoming a band parent, but she was not. And to put an end to things with my outside partner, she merely wanted to try to terminate things. For the life of me, I have no idea what to do with this point. Al's comments are cold and icy. My guess is that your wife dumped you because she has no intention of remaining with you for an extended period of time. Indeed, that is just what I was thinking. Believe me when I say that I have no intention of causing her financial hardship. She is considering the possibility that she is so confident in us at this point that she is prepared to put an end to things. What about a year or two from now, when she makes the decision that she wants someone else and decides that she wants to open things up again? What about that? In the event that she wants it both ways, I will not allow myself to be blackmailed with the threat of divorce. This is John Miller. Already, your marriage has come to an end. All the best. Oh, I'm starting to understand that about myself. She is not the same person I married, and I despise the fact that she is. In spite of the fact that he is in an open marriage, Lady Meg Pie, his wife is not aware of it. Therefore, Hess is simply having an affair with his wife. Yes, that's correct. It would appear that my wife was under the impression that it was open, and he had informed her that it was. He was simply playing a game with his wife without her awareness. Take a stand on whether or not his wife was still interested in ending the marriage, as well as whether or not the divorce will still go ahead. I see. My first question was whether or not she would be ready to consent to the fact that once it was closed, it would remain closed. In the event that we were to divorce, I then inquired as to whether or not she would be ready to forego spousal support. I then expressly inquired as to whether or not she would be prepared to waive it just in certain circumstances, such as when she cheated on me or when I refused to put the marriage back together. She refused to engage in conversation about it. I don't want to find myself in a scenario where, 6 months from now, her ex-partner wants to start a new relationship with her, or where she finds someone else that she is interested in and decides to threaten me with divorce once more if I don't reopen the marriage. There is no way that I intend to take advantage of her financially. When I asked her for a guarantee that she wouldn't ask me that question again, I was curious to see how she would respond to my request. The fact that she was not willing to put her money where her mouth was made very evident by her response. In regard to how he came to know Amber, I was introduced to her by her band dad. Only in the band do our daughters share a close relationship with one another. It is not my wife's thing to be active in band, thus she did not participate in any way. As she was looking for things to do while the quarantine was in effect, she came to the conclusion that she would want to assist with the concert. Should I have responded with a negative answer at that moment, stating that you are unable to do so, since my outside partner is a band mom and I do not want you to be a part of that circle? She did not belong to my wife's group of friends. After I had set Amber up, my wife did not become involved with the band until May, which was a full year after I had done so. Upon further investigation, it was discovered that my wife's unexpected decision to become associated with the band was motivated by a unique and specific purpose. In May of 2019, I began a romantic relationship with Amber. Since December of 2018, she has been with her boyfriend. One more update to recap. When my wife told me that she was prepared to file for divorce, I agreed with her that she wanted an open marriage. However, I did not desire an open marriage that she wanted. Within 24 hours, she had a partner from the outside. I had to wait a few months for it. The relationship between her and her partner ended. In an effort to coerce me into ending my relationship, she followed me around and introduced herself to my boyfriend. After it failed to get the desired results, she made the decision to seek that the marriage be rescinded. The constraints that I imposed on it were ones that she was unwilling to accept. We are now entering the final month. This month has been quite challenging. After learning about the stalking, I confronted my wife. She initially disputed it, but then I brought up her location history and she denied it again. The attempt to deflect was made by her, and she claimed that I had invaded her private. Nevertheless, I did not accept the bait. After a long time, she finally revealed that she did not enjoy the fact that I had someone on the side when she did not, and that a mother at the school felt like she was too close to home. I made a deal with Amber that I would end our relationship if she committed to attending counseling, permanently ending the marriage, and beginning the process of looking for a job to assist with the costs of maintaining the household. It was her response that she is a mother who stays at home. I informed her that it was something that we may discuss once the coronavirus had passed, but that she would not be able to just stay at home once things returned to normal. A few sessions of therapy were conducted, and initially everything went swimmingly. In addition to challenging her to explain why she had followed me, the therapist inquired as to the reason she believed it was necessary for her to leave the marriage, and she was required to address virtually everything that was going through my head. The situation then deteriorated. It was revealed that her outside partner was a person from her past, specifically a boyfriend from her high school years. It was before anything had happened that they had broken up, and then they had reconnected. As a result of her sadness that she had not been able to accompany him throughout high school, she made the decision that she wanted to fulfill that goal. I was enraged by that. In the same way that my choice of a mother from school was too close to home, I warned her that her choice of a married ex-boyfriend was entirely contrary to the standards of appropriate behavior. My response to her was that I didn't even want to look at her. Because I didn't want my children to see me in such a state, I decided to check into a hotel so that I could recuperate. After remaining there for a few days, I made the decision to return home and deal with the remaining issues that were associated with my marriage. I discovered that my daughter was acting in an abnormally frigid manner toward me when I arrived home. Even for a girl of 14 years old, she seemed rather dismissive of the situation. I asked her what was going on, and she went off on me for cheating on my mother with another mother who was not allowed to be with me. I tried to find out where she had heard this. At first, she refused to tell me, claiming that it was irrelevant nevertheless. Over time, she eventually acknowledged that her mother had informed her that I had been staying at the residence of my girlfriend after I had gone. I mentally counted to 10, then I informed her that it was not true, then I showed her the receipt for the hotel that was on my phone, and then I told her that her mother and I had a quarrel, and that I had decided to take some time away so that we could both recover from the argument. She shed a lot of tears, and I assured her that I loved her, and that I would continue to love her forever. Despite the fact that I was famished on the inside, I did my best to keep my cool. Even then, I did not go to see my wife. After going to Facebook, I was able to locate the man's wife. I wrote her a message in which I informed her that her husband had been having an affair with my wife for a year and a half, and that I would be pleased to provide her any documentation that she would like to see. She was quite grateful, and she had a sneaking suspicion that something was wrong. A few hours later, my wife rushed to me in a fit of wrath, yelling that I had violated the confidentiality of our therapy session and damaged the life of the individual. What was she trying to accomplish by informing our daughter that I was seeing another woman? I inquired of her. In spite of her denials, she continues to refuse to acknowledge that she disclosed any information to her other than the fact that I was absent for a few days. On Thursday of last week, something occurred. Since then, we have not communicated with one another. On the following day, we are scheduled to have another therapy session. However, I am not sure if it is even worthwhile to attend them. The more lies she tells, the more I realize that I will never be able to trust her again. I constantly catching her in lies. When I think about it, I feel sick to my stomach, even though I am aware that filing for divorce is the prudent choice at this moment in time. The fact that I was unable to make my marriage work together makes me feel like a failure. When I attempt to call an attorney, I just feel like I'm going to throw up every time. I know that's where it's going to end up, but I just am not sure how to handle it. I am grateful for the update, Chattalak Don. I am sorry to read that. Therapy is only bringing more things to light, and it is evident that your faith in your wife has been utterly shattered as a result of her being lost in her endless sea of lies. I really hope that your wife wasn't the one to tell it to your daughter, but when people are sinking quickly, they will cling on to anyone to keep them afloat, and turning the kids against you isn't exactly an innovative technique. I hope that your wife didn't tell that to your daughter. Despite the fact that the marriage has reached its conclusion, you are not a failure. The best course of action at this point is probably to get in touch with that attorney, regardless of how challenging that might be. Get it done for you. Do it for the sake of your children. If you want your wife to be able to reach her lowest point on her own without wrecking your lives in the process, you should even do it for her. I hope you go well, guy. Talk to a lawyer about the fact that you are a resource. Your wife started the relationship after she had already cheated on you, or was about to cheat on you anyhow, if you are being completely honest with yourself. After that, when things did not go as planned, she did not want you to enjoy yourself when she was not. She does not make any donations to the home, and she also does not have any plans. Incessantly, she tells lies. What gives you the impression that anything would rectify this situation? It is important to believe someone when they reveal themselves to you. Either she gets her way or the highway. So, as I mentioned earlier, consult with a lawyer. Make sure that your financial situation is in order, and walk out of this terrible relationship. Oh my goodness, Lisa, you did not fail at all. Your spouse had the intention of cheating, but she did not want to label it cheating. Not only did she never want to, but she also expected you to do the same. The fact that she threatened to divorce you if you did not comply is an example of extreme manipulation. Last but not least, the fact that she attempted to damage your connection with your daughter is the final straw. From my point of view, the problem is not one that can be resolved. But you should never be too hard on yourself for any of this. The entire time, your wife has been going off the rails, and you have been trying to hold on for dear life. But perhaps it is time for you to let go. In addition to that, I would be completely honest with your daughter about the entire process. All of this information will eventually become public, and it is much more beneficial to have the truth rather than rumors and lies. So, let's go on to the next tale, the second story. Finally, after 30 years, I was able to meet my real father. We became close on his yacht, and then I discovered that he had been cheating on me with my girlfriend over a family dinner. He had gotten her pregnant while she was still married. The relationship between my girlfriend and I had lasted for close to 4 years before everything came to an end. They both invited us to a haunted house attraction for Halloween, which is how we was introduced to each other in a casual setting through some mutual acquaintances. As a result, we were left alone for a period of time. Due to the fact that the attraction featured a beer garden, she and I ended up breaking away from the rest of the group in order to visit their establishment. During the time that we spent together, we discussed everything. As the night came to a close, we did not hesitate to exchange phone numbers and officially begin dating. It had been 1.5 years since we had begun dating when she finally moved in with me. As I was growing up, I was never introduced to my father. Over the course of my life, there had been numerous instances in which I desired to discover who he was. Growing up, I was informed that he and my mother had been dating at the time that she became pregnant with me. This was the story that I was told. Due to the fact that she is a devoted Catholic, the only choice that could be made was to proceed with the pregnancy. Not at all, he desired that. As a result of his efforts to persuade my mother to have an abortion, she informed him that she did not wish to have any further interaction with him. The first 12 years of my life were spent with her as a single mother, during which she gave birth to me and reared me. Following my birth, Mother went on to have additional children with my stepfather. She never gave in to my requests to reveal the identity of my father, regardless of how many times I urged her to do so. Eventually, I came to terms with the fact that I would never know the truth. My partner was the one who persuaded me to give it another shot and uncover the truth. My family has suffered a loss of a member. Due to the fact that they had cancer, one of my cousins passed away. Because of it, I started wondering about other ailments that members of my family might be suffering from. To find out who my father was from that perspective, my girlfriend and I went to my mother and approached her about the possibility of telling me. I needed to find out if my blood had a history of any severe illnesses that had occurred in the past. It was also important to me to let her know when I intended to start a family, so I informed her that. That was the cherry on top for her, and since then she has made the decision to share everything with me. After receiving his name from her, I made an effort to get in touch with him. I was concerned that he wouldn't be open to meeting me, but contrary to my expectations, he was. I invited my girlfriend to join me for the lunch that we had planned to have together. It was a surreal experience to see him for the first time, because I was able to notice how much I resembled him just looking at him. In the aftermath of everything, I found myself experiencing a great deal of emotion, and I was at a loss for how to deal with everything. Throughout everything that happened, my girlfriend was there for me, and she provided me with comfort. My biological father reached out to me once more around a week after our initial lunch date, and he inquired as to whether or not I would be interested in seeing him once more. It would appear that he was feeling extremely guilty after our initial encounter, and he had made the decision that he wanted the opportunity to get to know me better. One of my girlfriends urged me to give it a shot. Given that I found it challenging to complete the task on my own, I extended an invitation to her to accompany me. We had a terrific day fishing out on his boat, which involved all 3 of us going out on the water. All of us had a conversation while we drank a few beers. He filled me in on everything in his family. He had 3 children, all of whom were much younger than I was, and he was married. During the time when my mother was pregnant, he explained that he just was not prepared to become a father. Both he and my girlfriend gave each other their phone numbers before we went our separate ways for the day. This was done so that we could all make time to meet his family. I was interested in meeting my half-siblings, and my fiancé was the one who arranged for us to do together. Although it had been a few weeks since I had last seen him, we had been contacting each other on a regular basis in order to stay in touch. It was revealed to me by my girlfriend that they were making preparations to host a dinner at my father's residence at the end of the month. When I was working in construction, I was performing a task that required me to be approximately 50 feet in the air when I accidentally dropped my phone on concrete. Upon further inspection, I discovered that it had been utterly ruined. Due to the presence of the glass, the screen was almost impossible to touch. I replaced my old phone with a new one as soon as I was able to, and I had everything transferred over from the old phone. I made a speedy shift by moving the SIM card to the new location. It was necessary for me to re-add a few contacts to the phone, because they had not been saved to the SIM card originally. On that list was my biological father, among others. As I arrived home later that day, I saw that my girlfriend was currently dozing off on the couch. I required the phone number of my father in order to inform him that I had acquired a new phone in the event that you needed to get in touch with me. The fact that I was familiar with the password for my girlfriend's phone and that I had used her phone a great number of times in the past meant that I did not give it much thought when I grabbed it to transmit the contact information to myself. There was a lengthy call history between the two of them, which I discovered when I clicked on his name and the contacts listing. On account of the fact that she had never informed me that they had been talking to one other on the phone, it immediately drew my attention. Upon entering the other room, I proceeded to examine the call log and the message log in order to gain a comprehensive understanding of the situation. It was on the day that we all went on the boat together that they started sending us texts. My father sent a text message to my girlfriend a few hours after they had exchanged their phone numbers. In the message, he informed her that I was fortunate to have her. It was a pleasant beginning, and she expressed her gratitude to him, stating that she was fortunate to have me as well. Then, my father began to engage in a lot of flirtatious behavior with her. He informed her that she was stunning and that he might have to intervene if I did not treat her in a manner that was considered appropriate. Due to the fact that I was aware that he was married and had children, it was strange to see him. In her response, my girlfriend informed him that she would be more than delighted to allow him to take over in the event that it were necessary. From that point on, subsequent texts were extremely suggestive. The two of them were constantly sneaking about and openly expressing their desire to have sexual relations with one another. Before my father sent my girlfriend a picture of himself, it seemed like they were just flirting with each other. Although it was quite evident what was going on, it didn't appear like anything other than that. He then proceeded to tell her that a fresh photograph she had shared to Instagram had really turned him on. The photo in question was a naked one. After expressing her satisfaction that it had occurred, my girlfriend proceeded to send him additional photographs of herself. A large number of photographs, as well as audio recordings and video recordings, were sent between them. When I clicked on one of the films that my father had provided to her, it was him providing her with a detailed account of all the vile things that he intended to do to her once they were finally able to be together. There were children outside of the room that he was in, and I could hear them running about in the background. The messages made it abundantly evident that they had not yet finally gotten together to engage in sexual activity in person. They intended to sneak away to his boat while everyone else was at his house if they were successful in their plan. I put her phone back in her hand and claimed that I hadn't seen anything before my girlfriend woke up. Every single thing caused me a great deal of pain. For the entirety of my life, my father had been aware of my existence, yet he acted as if I did not exist. In spite of the fact that I had finally been given the chance to communicate with him, he once again deceived me by making sexual advances toward my partner. And because she was aware of how vital it was for me to meet him, my girlfriend made the decision to have sexual relations with him. By both of them, I experienced a profound sense of betrayal. I was immediately aware of the fact that I wanted to make them suffer as a result of their decisions. Due to the fact that the dinner was just a week away, I decided to get over my anxiety and act as if everything was fine until the meal arrived. During the day of the dinner, I was able to control my emotions and make it through the meal without getting angry and lunging across the table to assault my father. During the time that I spent getting to know my stepmother, I felt terrible for her because of all that happened. To tell you the truth, if he had messaged my girlfriend after just knowing her for such a short period of time, I would not have been surprised to learn that he had other indiscretions in the past. As soon as we finished eating, we made the decision to put on a movie and enjoy it together. In addition to the fact that he had some things that he wanted to finish up on the boat, my father stated that he was not especially interested in viewing the movie to begin with. No one questioned his decision to withdraw from the film, and he did so publicly. My partner informed me that she had received a phone call approximately 15 minutes into the film. Her phone did not ring or light up, and I did not see it. It was her scheme to sneak out of the house and meet up with my father. After she had been absent for around 3 minutes, I turned to my stepmother and stated that it was strange that she had been absent for such a lengthy period of time. I was relieved that I wouldn't wake up the children by making a scene because they had already fallen asleep on the couch. I was thankful that I wouldn't wake them up. In response to my announcement that I was going to go check on my partner, she halted the movie in order to allow me some time to myself. I was conscious of the fact that I would not come across her on the porch. In spite of this, I walked back inside and informed her that she had left. I had stared at her nevertheless. We went outdoors together to hunt for her because she was worried about her whereabouts. Her suggestion that we go ask my father if he had seen her was the one that came from her. As a result, I went with her to the boat, where we both knew he was working on that particular project. Almost immediately as we opened the door to the lower level, we were able to hear quite clear sounds of sexual activity. When she cried out the name of my father, the sound abruptly halted. Although it took him a moment, he eventually approached the door of the bedroom and inquired about her requirements, as if she were causing him to be disturbed. Upon inquiring about his activities, he responded by stating that he was changing the furnishings in his home. There was a strong want to laugh, and in response to my inquiry as to whether or not my girlfriend was present with him, he attempted to argue that the question was absurd. I was able to go by him and unlock the door, where I discovered her attempting to put on her clothing in the most stealthy manner imaginable. While everything was taking place, a dispute between all of the individuals involved came out. To tell you the truth, my reaction was rather normal, despite the fact that I had a sneaking sensation that we were going to find out what happened. As a result of my hurt and anger, I allowed it to be seen by others. Nobody was aware that I had practically intended for us to see what we did, and nobody had any notion about it. The night before, my stepmother evicted my father from the house, and I went back to her place to gather my belongings and get away from the situation. After what had occurred, I was unable to be in the same room with my girlfriend. I ultimately decided to move out of the apartment completely a few weeks after I had moved in. Upon discovering that my father had been looking for a place to crash, my girlfriend extended an invitation to him. They had been seeing one another for a few months when my girlfriend became pregnant. It would appear that my father followed a certain pattern in the way that he dealt with situations. In addition to the fact that he was attempting to make amends with his wife, he disclosed to her that he already had children. Having another child in the picture would prevent him from being able to achieve that. This was something that he attempted to deny, and he even attempted to persuade her to have an abortion. No, she had no intention of doing that. I immediately notified my stepmother about what had occurred so that she would be aware that he was going to attempt to deceive her. I did this as soon as I discovered what had occurred. She told me that she would be staying a considerable distance away from my father and thanked me for the information that I had provided. My girlfriend and I had a lot of friends together, and all of them were shocked and disgusted by what she carried out. They were perplexed as to how she could have a sexual encounter with someone who had such a shaky connection with her boyfriend, and they believed that she lacked compassion. As a result of everything that happened, many of them stopped talking to her. Despite the fact that she did end up having a kid with my father, he was not involved in the process. When my father divorced his wife, he was compelled to pay alimony and child support from his paychecks to her. He also had to pay child support. Additionally, he was compelled to pay child support due to the fact that a DNA test established that he was the biological father of the child that belonged to my ex-girlfriend. I have a strong suspicion that he was referring to any of his own paychecks.